This is Parshas Parah. We read all about Parah Aduma. Days of the Beis Hamikdash. It was a hachraza that everybody should become toher in order to be able to participate in the Korban Pesach. Zman she'ein Beis Hamikdash kayom. So in a certain sense, it's a fulfillment of the din of the neshama for him Svaseinu that Avram Avinu asked by the priest Ben Abtsorim, Bama Eida Ki Yirashenu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave Eretz Yisrael matana to Avram Avinu and to his descendants, then to us. So Avram Avinu says, Bama Eida Be'ez Chus. What do we have to be makbet about? So the Baruch Shalom said, K'chol le'eglam m'shulesh mitzvah chus hakravas hakarbonos. So then the Gemara says at the end of Megillah, then Avram Avinu asks, what's going to happen? Zman she'ein Beis Hamikdash kayim. In 1948, what schus did we have to get Eretz Yisrael and not able to be makro karbonos? So the Baruch Shalom said, let the Jewish people recite the Parshas Vayakhel Malan Yalehem Kilu Hikrivim. I will consider it as if they brought the karbonos. So Parah Aduma is also, Gemara says, Chatas Kai Rachmana, has dinim like a korban Chatas, Chatasi. So also it's covered with the dinim and the Shalom for him Svaseinu. The Mabit, who was together with the Beis Yosef and the Bezdin in Tzvat, the Mabit writes in his Sefer, Beis Elokim, that Haftoch and the Shalom for him Svaseinu applies to any mitzvah that you're unable to do. Let's say the Jews and under the communists weren't able to eat matzah. So if they learned the dinim of matzah, it's considered as if, under the circumstances, considered as if they fulfilled the din of matzah. But the Chafetz Chaim has a whole kuntris, a whole long essay, where he shows all the Rishonim say not so. It's only a din by Binya Beis Hamikdash and Hakravas HaKarbonos. That if you recite the Parsha, it's considered as if you fulfilled the mitzvahs with Korban. So Parah Aduma has dinim like Achatos, so that by our reciting Parshas Parah, that will be considered, even according to the Chafetz Chaim, it will be considered as if we participated in Parah Aduma. It's one of the mitzvahs in the Torah. In the middle of Parshas Parah, it says, whoever touches Chalal Cherev, whoever touches a mace who was killed by a Cherev. So the Gemara learns that the Mishnah is learning that the din of Cherev Harev Kachol. So some Rishonim say that the din only applies to the sword with which he was killed. That's against Mishnayos. Those Rishonim and the commentaries on Mishnayos Aholos is beferish against Mishnayos, not only the knife with which he was killed. Cherev Kachol is a machlokes in Rishonim, but the Rashi and Tosfos and the Rambam and the Ravid. Does it only apply if it's a kli mateches or any kli other than a kli cheres? Any kli. The din is that usually the tumah told the same, Labka Yotzebem, the tumah is transmitted, so it keeps on going down a madrega. And mace is Abi Avois HaTumah, someone who's at the funeral becomes an Av HaTumah. Later on he shakes hands with someone else in the afternoon, he becomes a Rishon HaTumah, he touches food, he makes it into a Sheni HaTumah, and so on. Whenever tumah is transmitted, it goes down. So that's the klal. Has to be told the same. Lavka Yotzebem. So this is the exception to the rule that the Cherev Harev Kachol. Tosfos asks on the first daf in Baba Kama, but it has to be told the same. Lavka Yotzebem, the tumah has to go down. So how can it be that there's such a din of Cherev Harev Kachol? So Tosfos says it does go down a little bit. A Cherev Harev Kachol is not exactly like Kachol. It can make another Cherev Harev Kachol. And they show a Mishnah like that in a Holos. It does go down a little bit. The Rashash, in the end of Nida, has a suffix regarding the din of Cherev Harehu Kachol. The din is that by a Tomei Meis is the only Tomei Meis in it, so they can't become Tohar without the assistance of somebody else. The Mitzorah has to, when he becomes Tohar, he has to bring Karbanos. He needs a Kohen to complete the Tahar. But mainly the Tomei Meis has to have Hazor Shlishi Shvi. Let's say he went to a funeral on Monday. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So Wednesday Shlishi. And next week, Sunday, will be Hazor Shvi. He has to have Hazor Shlishi Shvi from the Parah Aduma, whatever. He's out Torah al Tomei. Someone else has to be Mazah on him. And then he can go to mikveh afterwards. And then Tosfos and Megillah, in the first parak of Megillah, Tosfos shows from Mishnayos that in order to receive the Hazor on Shlishi, he has to go to mikveh first. In order to receive the Hazor on Shvi, he has to go to mikveh again first. The Gemara has a klal leka hazor beloy tefillah. Can't have any hazor on the gufa adam without first going to a mikveh. So the Tamim Meis has to go to mikveh 3 times. He has to go to mikveh on Shlishi to receive Hazor Shlishi. Then he has to go to mikveh on Shvi to be able to receive the Hazor Shvi. And then he has to go to mikveh to make himself Tahor. So the Rashash has a sofek. Let's say you have a kli. Let's say a person was at a funeral. So he has to have Hazor Shlishi Shvi. Let's say he had Hazor Shlishi, and it's another 2 days later. It's the 5th day. He has to wait another 2 days till Shvi, then go to mikveh and have Zah Shvi, and then go to mikveh to become Torah. So let's say it's on the 5th day, and then he touches a cherev hareu kecholo. So the cherev hareu kecholo, it touches a matechet, let's say kli matechas. So that becomes the same madrega that he has. The cherev hareu kecholo is considered as if it was on the 5th day. On the 5th day, having had already 1 hazor, so it only needs another hazor on the shvi. I say no, cherev kechol goes to the beginning. Becomes just like the person who touched the mace needed hazor shlishi shvi. So too, the cherev kechol is going to need hazor shlishi shvi. So by a boiled nido, the pasuk says it's a hini dasa olav. So the Gemara has such a havamina that someone is boiled a nida on the 6th day. A nida is tamei for 7 days. That she goes to mikveh the night after the 7th day. So let's say someone is boiled nida on the 6th day of the nida. So the nida only has to wait 1 more day and then go to mikveh. So what about the boiled nida, the 6th day? He only has to wait 1 day and then go to mikveh? Or do you say no? So he does all of mean he becomes like a nida. He has to start from the beginning. So the Gemara quotes a brisa from Teres Kahanim that says, Yochel Yala Leraglo, Megi takes over what she's holding now. Talmud Loima, it's not so. He starts from the beginning. The Gemara never has such a discussion when he gets the Cherev HaEkahol. That's Rashash and Shaiba. So this Stipula has a whole shtickle turn to the Sefer on Taras, what the din is. I printed it, Vater in the Beis Yitzchak. I have arrived in the Gemara the funny way, that it is Yala Leraglo. The dinim of the Gemara, that based on the assumption that the Cherev HaEkahol only needs 1 more hazor 2 days later. Not the same as the boiled nida. The main Kriyas HaTorah tomorrow is going to be the Parshas Vayakhel. The Ramban writes in the introduction to Chumash Mos that Chumash Mos is the story of the first Golus, the Golus Mitzrayim, and the Geula therefrom. So then he asks on himself, how can I say that has the Geula? Geula is not till after Moshe Rabbeinu dies and they return back to Eretz Yisrael. They cross over the Yarden in Sefer Yoshua. That's not in Chumash Mos. How can he say that it has the Golus and the Geula? The Ramban says that was a shtickle tragedy that the Jews were in Chutz La'aretz. But it's not, the Geula is not when they come back to Eretz Yisrael. The main tragedy of the Golus Mitzrayim was that the Ovis, when they lived in Eretz Yisrael, used to have Hashuas Hashchina. Rashi and Chumash quotes the Psukim in Bereshis that the Avram Yisrael had Hashuas Hashchina. When they went down to Mitzrayim, they had no Hashuas Hashchina. When they built the Mishkan, they had back Hashuas Hashchina. That was the Geula. It says the 4 sedges, Truma Tetzad, Vayakhel Pikud, in the end of Shmos, that is the Geula. So that's what they quote in the biographies of the Chazon Ish. Chazon Ish moved to Eretz Yisrael years before the Second World War began. And then when Hakamas Amdina took place in 1948, so they quote and he made a comment, this is the end of the Golus, but it's not yet the Geula. The end of the Golus because the Jewish government then itself is inviting all the Jews all over the world to please come. They're encouraging, inviting everyone to come. Under the British, they didn't let them come. So after Hakamas Amdina, they gave permission and encouraged all the Jews to come. So that's the end of the Golus. We're not forced to stay in Golus. We're all free to go to Eretz Yisrael. But it's not yet the Geula. So people thought that it was double talk. It wasn't double talk. He was using the language of the Ramban that the Geula is when you have Hashuas Hashchina. Because when you don't have a Beis HaMikdash, you don't have a Geula. So the Torah describes at length all of the different parts of the Mishkan. Truma Tetzad, Vayakhel Pikudei, all barichas. The Navi Yecheskel was before and during and after the Churban Bais Rishon. So he said, Benevua, he said before the Churban, there's going to be a Churban, the Jews will be sent to the Golus. They won't have a Beis HaMikdash, but Eyu Lahem LeMikdash Meyat. They have a miniature Beis HaMikdash. So the Gemara says that that's a reference to the Batik and Esiyas Shebebavel, all the shuls in Bavel. So that's a question, is that really the Pshat and the Pasuk, or is that somehow an additional level of interpretation? So some Rishonim hold, Chayyadon quotes Blezim Emitz in Sefer Yereim, holds that Kedusha's Beis HaKnesses is a real din deraisa based on that Pasuk. So they used to point out the Rambam, the Achronim have this. The Rambam writes in one place that sounds like it says in one place only. Doesn't have it in the Mishnah Torah anywhere. He doesn't have it in the Mar Nevuchim. He doesn't have it in the Pirush HaMishnayos. As in the Minyan HaMitzvahs, B'Ktsara, in the beginning of the Arach HaZokah. So the Rambam writes B'Kitzur, what he wrote in Arabic in the Sefer HaMitzvahs. He repeats it in the Sefer in the Mishnah Torah when he has the Minyan HaMitzvahs B'Ktsara. So he quotes the din that the Pasuk says, when we come to Eretz Yisrael, we should destroy all the Avodah Zaras. Asherem tisruf moesh, sivarem tigadeon, idbartem mishmam and amakam hu, l'sasen kein l'Hashem elakechem. There doesn't mean l'sasen kein l'Hashem elakechem. So it's an ashar, the noitet seven min hamizbeach. That's a love. So the Rambam in the Minyan HaMitzvahs B'Ktsara writes, it's ashar, the noitet seven min hamizbeach, or mibatim knesiyas and mibatim midrashas. So that's what the Achronim say, and that line in the Rambam would appear that he thinks, like Blezim Emitz, like Kedusha's Beis HaKnesses is a din deraisa. The din of covered Beis HaKnesses is a real din deraisa. The Beis HaMikdash mamish is the din of Mora HaMikdash, that's a covered square. And the Batik and Esiyas are Mikdash Meyat, so it's covered Beis HaKnesses. We don't say Mora Beis HaKnesses. So Lechi gave perhaps a definition. What does it mean, Mikdash Meyat? What's the real Beis HaMikdash? What's the Mikdash Meyat? So he said the Beis HaMikdash is the Beis Hashem, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu invites us to come visit by him. And the Beis HaKnesses is Beis Seinu, and the Shechina comes to visit by us. Yeah, the Gemara like that in the end of Brachas. The Gemara says, what is covered Beis HaKnesses required? Ki Beiso, just like if you visit by someone else in their home. So you don't walk in, let's say your boots are wet, you were walking in the street when it was raining. You shouldn't walk in with the boots on. You wouldn't do it in your own house, walking with dirty shoes. So you're not allowed to do it when you visit in someone else's home. The same respect that you give when you visit by someone else. So the Gemara said, Beis HaKnesset, that's Beis HaKnesses, is Ki Beiso, like your own home. So it sounds like it's our home, and the Shechina visits by us. That's what we assume, that on Yontif, on Shalosh Rabbon, we have an obligation to visit the Ribono Shel Olam. And so Leichik pointed out that the Gemara sounds like it says, there's a problematic Rambam. The Gemara sounds like it says that the Kohen Gadol never observes Avelos. That the Kohen Gadol is not mitami to the Kroivim. The Rambam says, based on the Gemara, the Rambam says that the being mitami to the Kroivim is a form of Nihug Avelos. So the Kohen Gadol is not mitami even to the Zayin Kroivim. So it sounds like the Kohen Gadol never observes Avelos. The Rambam says Kohen Gadol does, so it's problematic. But the Gemara sounds like not. The Gemara says why? That Kohen Gadol kol hashana kula ki yisrael baregel dam. Just like yisrael baregel, we have a chiyuv aliyah leregel, and because we have a chiyuv to visit the Shechina, to be lefnei Hashem, that's why there's a mitzvah of simcha. Smachtem lefnei Hashem alakechem. The definition of simcha is when chiyuv simcha is when you're in the presence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So the Kohen Gadol has to be in the Beis HaMikdash all year long. That's his responsibility, to supervise everything that's taking place in the Beis HaMikdash. So the Kohen Gadol has, all year long, has a chiyuv simcha. So whenever you have a chiyuv simcha and abelos are tarted as asri. That's a simple pshat in the Gemara. So on Shabbos, we're greeting the Shechina, but the Shechina comes to visit by us. On Yom Tov, we go to visit by the Shechina. So that's on Shalosh Rabbon. What about Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur? There's no chiyuv aliyah l'regel. So what do you mean on Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur? There's lefnei Hashem. So they pointed out that it says the Gemara in Rosh Hashanah with respect to Enkatega Nasasan Eger. So the Gemara says that Kia Shofar, wherever you are, in New York, New Jersey, wherever you are, given that the Zikaron Klasi Kilif Nimdami, when you blow the Shofar on Rosh Hashanah, Even though you're in Chutzlars, it's considered as if you're lefnai v'lefnim, as if you're in the Kodesh HaKadosh. That's what the Gemara says. So he thought that on Rosh Hashanah also, we pass on there's a Chi of Simcha on Rosh Hashanah. There's Machlokes HaTanaim, whether Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur also cancel Avelis or not. So that's the Pashtus Machlokes, whether there's a Chi of Simcha. The Gemara says whenever there's a Chi of Simcha, it's a Tat that is Sasri with Avelis. So we pass on that there is a Chi of Simcha on Rosh Hashanah. So on Rosh Hashanah, even the Zikar and Kos, Kelef Nimtam, what about Yom Kippur? Also, Lechik said, the Rambam writes in the Shemona Prokim, in the Hakdamah to Pirkei Avos. So he quotes Psukim, mainly Psukim from Navi, where it says that when we do Averis, so as if we make an iron wall, as if there's an iron curtain, and the Shekhinah is on the other side, and we're not in the presence of Hashem. On Yom Kippur, we have, all year long, we have a mitzvah to do tshuva, but more so on Yom Kippur, the Rambam writes, because there's an opportunity for Mechilas Ha'avan. So if we lose the opportunity, that's stupidity and our fault. So the Rambam says there's a bigger chiyuv on Yom Kippur to do tshuva than all year long. So we have a chiyuv to do tshuva and return back to be lifnei Hashem again. But that's what he said, that whenever there's a chiyuv simcha, that's because there's a chiyuv to be lifnei Hashem. On Shabbos, we're also lifnei Hashem, but it's the Shekhinah comes to visit by us. When we say Boi V'Shalom, when we turn to wherever, we're turning to the Shekhinah, we're turning to the door, wherever you turn. So that's because not only Shabbos is entering, the Shekhinah is coming also to spend Shabbos with us. So because of this idea that what the Knesset all over the world are considered Migdash Meyad, so we have a lot of dinim halacha l'maisa in the shuls that are based on Migdash. So in the Bayis Sheni, I don't know if we have any documentation on the Bayis Rishon, but the Bayis Sheni, there was Ezras Noshim separate, and the Azara was for the men. So the same thing in a shul, you have to have a separate section. When the reform originally began and they decided to imitate the Christians, the family who prays together stays together, so all the Rabbanim said it's against the din, because the Beis HaKnesses is supposed to be patterned after the Beis HaMikdash. And then we assume, just like in the Beis HaMikdash, the Ezras Noshim had a lower level Kedusha than the Azara. The Ezras Noshim only had Kedushas Harabais, didn't have Kedushas Azara. Why was that? So Rashi writes on the Gemara that when the Chachamim built the Bayis Sheni, they knew that the women are going to be pregnant, they're going to be nursing, they're going to be weaker than the men. Now the women take prenatal pills and postnatal pills, so they're healthier than their husbands when they have the babies. But years ago, the women used to be weaker because of the pregnancies. So there's a din in the Azar, no one's allowed to sit in the Azar. So if the women want to visit the Azar, they're going to have to stand the whole time and make it very difficult for them. So Rashi says they wanted to make it easy for the women. So they were never Mekadosh the Ezras Noshim. They only gave the Kedushas Harabait. Harabait, you're allowed to sit, but the Azar, you're not allowed to sit. That's what Rashi says. So we assume that today also in the Shul, Ezras Noshim has a lower level of Kedusha than the Azara where the men sit. So let's say if they guessed wrong. One of the rabbis here years ago, Rabbi Fabian Schoenfeld, he was a prominent rabbi. So when he built his Young Israel in Queens, so they guessed wrong what percentage of the seats should be in the women's section, what percentage in the men's section. So they thought that they're going to need more room for the men than they really did need. So it turned out the women's section was too small. So after a couple of weeks, they realized they wanted to move over the Mechitza and take part of the men's section to convert it into a women's section. So the Achreinim all say that that's a violation of Malam HaKodesh V'lo Marid. Since in the Beis HaMikdash, the women's section only had Kedushas Harabais, and the men's section had Kedushas Hazara higher. So in the Shul also, we assume that the women's section has a lower level. So to convert the women's section to make it into men's section is Malam HaKodesh. But if the reverse, to convert part of the men's section to make it into a women's section, that's a violation of Marid. So Rabbi Fabian Schoenfeld asked Rabbi Soloveitchik, what should he do? They have to make part of the men's section into a women's section. So he told them what the classical poskim say, how to solve the problem. So we assume that we carry over these dinim from the Beis Hamikdash to the Botek and the Siyas. Dinners in the Beis Hamikdash, you have to have the kir every day before a kohen does an avodah, has to do kiddush adayim raglayim. So the same din applies to davening. Whenever you want it, whether in the shul or not in the shul, you take that din for the Beis Hamikdash, carry it over. Whenever you want to daven, so you're supposed to wash your hands with a cup of water. Cup salvation always used to be makbid. Right after Shir, we always used to daven mincha in the classroom. So he would always run down the hall and wash his hands in the washroom, and then he would run back to daven with us. And the same thing, he used to give a Shir Maria. That was the shul. He was the rabbi there for 10 years, and then during the 10 years, he started the Chever Shas, and he gave a weekly Shir there every Tuesday night for many years. It took him, I think, only once a week he learned brachas, and it took him over 10 years to finish, about 12 years, 13 years, something like that, to finish brachas. So he used to finish the shir on Tuesday night, and then they would say right away, B'urachum. They would say right away, Myra. They didn't give him a chance to wash his hands. So he would daven quickly with them. And then when they would say, when the whole shul was saying, Baruch Hashem, the Olam, he would run to the back of the shul and wash his hands with a cup of water. Then he would run back to the front and daven Shemona Esrei. That's because he didn't say Baruch Hashem Le'olam, so he was able to wash his hands before the Shemona Esrei. The Vilna Gaon is of the opinion you should follow the Rambam. He say Bracha Ana Tilas Yadayim when you wash your hands before Mincha, before Marav. Most people don't go so far. We don't follow the Gaon's practice, but they're really more correct is that we should wash our hands with a cup of water before. The Rabbi Yehuda writes that he doesn't think it's a din, but he thinks when you're building a new shul, you should make it rectangular shape. Because the Bais Rishon, the Bais Sheni, and the Mishkan, there's a Moshe Rabbeinu, all of these were always in rectangular shape. The Lincoln Square Synagogue originally was a bank, and it was a circular shape. So if you're buying a building, I don't think you have to spend $1 million, $10 billion to change it into a rectangle. But if you're building a shul l'chatchila, so that's what the Rabbi Yehuda says. He doesn't think it's right to build it circular. It should be a rectangular shape, similar to the Beis Hamikdash. But Meir Shapiro, the one who founded the Daf Yomi, he was a Rav in Lublin. He founded the yeshiva there, Lublin Yeshiva. So he has a collection of tshuvas Amer La'olam. So the last tshuva he quotes a Rambam in the Tshuvas HaRambam, where the Rambam says that just like in the Beis Hamikdash, Gagam Aliyas Lo Niskachu, on top of the roof of the Azora, it does not Kedushas Azora. So Tommy would be allowed to go on top of the roof. So too in the Beis HaKnesses, let's say you have a shul, and then someone wants to have an apartment on top of the shul. So it's permissible to use the shows from the Shnais like that in Megillah. Permissible to use the rooftop of the shul for secular purposes. So that's in the Mishnah like that. So the Rambam in the Tshuva writes, but Gagam V'aliyas of the Heichal on the Skachu. Of the Heichal, just Gagam V'aliyas of the Azar on the Skachu. So the Rambam says the Oren Kodesh in the shul corresponds to the Heichal. Because the Oren in the Beis Hamikdash was in the Kodesh HaKadoshim. That's in the back of the Heichal. So the Rambam in the Tshuva says that the area directly above the shul in the Beis HaKnesses should not be used for secular purposes. So over here, the area just directly above on the next floor, you shouldn't use for other purposes. That's what the Rambam writes. And then we have a paroches. We have a paroches in the shul, just like the paroches in the Beis Hamikdash. One of the Hungarian Achronim writes that in many shuls they have on the paroches, they have Seves Hadibros. So he thinks that was introduced by the Reform. He said that's against the halach. You're not allowed to give any more significance to the Seves Hadibros than to any other pasuk in the Chumash. So he thinks that was introduced by the Reform. They say it's absolutely not true. The paroches from centuries ago, before people were dreaming about Reform. So why do they put Seves Hadibros? Because in the Beis Hamikdash, the Oren had the Seves Hadibros in it. So we want to have and Parachas was in front of the Kodesh HaKadoshim. So we have a picture, more or less, of the Seres Adibas, because that's what it was supposed to be in the Kodesh HaKadoshim. The Pashtus is like that. So we have a minig on Tisha B'Av that we take down the Parachas. What is that all about? Because the whole role of the Parachas says, Because the Shechina is in the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Shechina is sure on the Kruvim, the ancient Kruvim. That's what it says in the Chumash. So we want to have a Havdalah between the Kodesh and the Kodesh HaKadoshim. So the Gemara says at the end of Rosh Hashanah that on the occasion of the Churban Bayis Rishon, the Shechina left in 10 stages. It was visible. The Shechina, there was some kind of a divine light, a heavenly light, nothing like we're used to. We have these kind of lights. That represented the Rabbanu Shalom. And then soon before the Churban Bayis Rishon, the Shechina left in 10 stages till the 10th went back to the 7th heaven. And then the Gemara says, Keneged, corresponding to the 10 stages of the Golas HaShechina, was the Golas of the Sanhedrin at the end of the Baisheni period. Sanhedrin left the Lishkas HaGazos and they went to a different location, then they went to Chanus, then they went to Yerushalayim, then they went to Yavne, Usha, Shfarm, Tzipori, all the different cities. So on Tisha B'Av, when the Beis HaMikdash was Charev, so you don't need a Parachas anymore. There's no Shechina on the other side. The Shechina left. So that's what Rav Soloveitchik explained. So why don't they give a mocker from a Pasuk in Eicha? Rav Soloveitchik said, what is it supposed to represent? It represents the idea. What it being Mavdal Ben HaKodesh, the Shechina is not there anymore. So you don't need the Parachas to separate between. The whole Sefer Avodram is based on the premise that the tefillos are supposed to be recited in biblical Hebrew. So every phrase in Oz Yasher is in Ashrei is in Tarach, okay, that we know. But whenever you have a bracha, so he quotes every phrase in the bracha where it has the source in Tarach. So on Leil HaSeder this year, Pesach is on Shabbos. So Leil HaSeder, the first night, you're going to say Kiddush and Havdalah. So when we say Havdalah, we're going to say Hamav Demek Kodesh LaKodesh. Because Erev Pesach was Shabbos, and the first day Pesach is Yontif, so going down on Madrega. So they say Hamavda Mekodesh LaKodesh. That's a Mishnah in Chulin. Say Hamavda Mekodesh LaKodesh. So the Avodram says, where is a mocker that there's such an expression in Tanakh? They quote Sevdila Parachas Lachan Bein HaKodesh Adei Kodesh HaKodashim. That's not in today's Seder, that's in Parshas Truma. But there is such a concept. It's not enough to be Mavda Mei Kodesh L'chol. You have to be Mavda Mei Kodesh Chomer, the Kodesh Kal. Also important. I remember when we, Soloveitchik 1 year after he had his surgery, he had cancer surgery. So the doctor asked him what his routine is. That's what he told us. So he told him. Comes into New York on Tuesday, he gives 2 shurim, 1 shir for the smicha student, 1 shir for the undergraduates. Wednesday, he gives 2 shurim. Tuesday night, he gives a shir for the Balabatim, and he goes back to Boston on Wednesday afternoon. So the doctor told me he has to slow down a little bit. Instead of giving 2 shurim on 2 different mesichtas, he should give only 1 shir, and he should pick something easy. So the first year, he picked easy. He learned Orach Chaim Hilchas Kriyas HaTorah, Hilchas Tefillin, Hilchas Tzitzis. That was easy by him. And then he learned Mishnayis Chala. And then he finished Mishnayis Chala. It's only 4 prakim. He finished Mishnayis Chala. Then he said it was the first time in his life that he ever made a siyum on anything. He finished 4 prakim in Mishnayis Chala. So he was so excited. So he went to Grunenbaum Bakeries. He used to be under Broyas Hashgacha. He's not here anymore. So he bought the cake and he bought soda and he paid for the siyum at a party. So when he had the party in the classroom, so he said, we have so many different levels of kedusha. You have mezuzah has kedusha. Tefillin has 4 parshas instead of 2. Mezuzah only has Shema B'Yam Shemayim. Tefillin have another 2. So Tefillin have a higher level of kedusha than mezuzah. There's a din in Ma'am HaKodesh, although Marid, it permitted to convert a mezuzah into tefillin, but you're not allowed to convert tefillin into mezuzah. That's a violation of marit. And the tefillin shel rosh has a slightly higher level of kedusha than the shel yad, because it has a shin on the outside, it has one more letter. And then the Sefer Torah has many parshas more than the tefillin, so it has a higher level. So he asked the question, why do you have to have so many high levels, different levels of kedusha? Just say there's kodesh and chol and shayin. They said you can't say that because the Rebbeinu Shalom is the source of all kedusha. Rebbeinu Shalom, the whole world emanated from the Rebbeinu Shalom. So if he's kodesh, so everything in the world should be kodesh. So we call everything chulin. We say table is chol, and all the buildings, everything is chol. He said it's not chol. Everything is kodesh kal. Because it's Rebbeinu Shalom is the source of kedusha. The whole world emanated from him, so everything has kedusha. So when you talk about kodesh and chol, you're already talking about kodesh chomer and kodesh kal. So that's why there are more degrees. You have to have. There's a hierarchy with all the mitzvahs, with all the kedusha. There's kodesh, al gabi kodesh, different degrees of kedusha. Okay, I'll go to Shabbos, everybody.